This is the Antimatter here with a deck profile. This is going to be Chaos Plants. It's going to be for the new format. It's not going to be double Warrior Plants or with Junk Synchron. It's going to take more after the plant builds and not try to go for that new stuff, which I think will be better when Tech Genius Hyper Librarian comes out. So if you want to know what that does, look it up. So here's the deck. To start, 3 Raikou. Raikou is one of your main milling engines, and it has an effect that lets you destroy any card on the field. So if you have a card that is giving you problems, like Necro Valley or Royal Oppression, you can do that. It's also a light for Chaos Sorcerer. Chaos Sorcerer, triple Chaos Sorcerer. Now that it's at 3, it's kind of a powerhouse, and it's a looming threat for your opponent. So if they don't play around it, it can become very powerful and dominant throughout the match and definitely change the pace of the game. 2 Card Trooper. Card Trooper just lets you mill more, so you can get darks in the grave for Chaos Sorcerer, and so you can maybe get that Dandelion, Spore, and Glow Bulb there, so you can activate their effects without having to normal summon them. It's also a floater, so that's good, and you can bring it back with Debris Dragon here to mill. Debris Dragon lets you go for Black Rose to blow up the field, get rid of all the problem cards that you could possibly ever want, and it lets you go for cards that really just change the game. And it's a huge threat, so you can bait your opponent with it and then go Chaos Sorcerer, or vice versa, depending on the situation. Double Lone Fire Blossom. I'm not playing Titanial, but I am playing Spore and Glow Bulb and Dandelion, and since Dandelion's only at 1 now, we really need the ability to search for it. And it also is fodder for Debris Dragon, and with Monster Reborn and Call the Haunted Limit Reverse, with Dandelion you can have some pretty cool combos. Effect Veiler, 2 Effect Veiler. It's a light, and its effect negation effect is just really, really strong. Its disruption it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it's still balanced because it doesn't destroy or anything, but it's definitely a staple, especially at 2. 1 Chaos Caius, the Shadow Monarch. I'm only running 1 Caius because I'm not spamming as many tokens, and I don't want to really use my Glow Up Bulb, Spore, and Plague Spreader Zombie to tribute for Caius. So it is a dark, and it does help when I have an extra token. I might cut it eventually, but right now it's testing well. 1 Dandelion works well with Debris Dragon, obviously, and then lets you pull off cool combos with Lone Fire Blossom, and then you get Formula Synchron. It's still a staple card in the deck, even though the deck isn't really as centered around it anymore. Spore lets you remove a plant, obviously, to get it back to the field as the tuner with the extra levels. It adds versatility to the type of Synchro summons that you can create, so you can go Colossal, Armory Armor TK. You can do a multitude of other things, and it kind of is the card that lets you get out of sticky situations or go for the game-winning play. Mystic Tomato, it's a dark, which actually really helps because it's a searchable dark along with Sangan. Mystic Tomato searches Sangan, and then vice versa, but Lone Fire searches Mystic Tomato, which searches Sangan, so if you need Sangan to search something that you can't search already, you can do that. It's a little slow, but it works, I guess, if you're desperate. Also, Mystic Tomato is it's kind of a floater, so they'll going to try to kill it with something that doesn't let you net the 1-for-1. Plague Spreader Zombie, Glow Up Bulb. These two cards are similar to Spore and each other, where they can bring themselves back from the graveyard and then Synchro Summon. Only he removes himself, but he's a dark, so if you really need him to not remove himself with his own effect, you can remove him with Chaos Sorcerer to make that play. On to the spells. Double Mystical Space Typhoon. Mystical Space Typhoon is still staple with 2 since we lost Cold Wave. It destroys things like Necro Valley that give you problems, along with Raikou. You know, he kills Necro Valley. And then Oppression, Skill Drain, anything that really hinders you that's continuous, or if you just need to get rid of that opponent's last back row when you need to push for game. Pot of Avarice, I'm playing 2. It lets you return cards back to your deck when you're playing 3 Raikou, 1 Charge of the Light Brigade, 2 Card Trooper, and then a bunch of search cards. It's really effective in what it does, and it nets you a +1. Charge of the Light Brigade lets you search for Raikou and lets you mill 3, so that's decent. And it thins, so that's good too. Giant Tornade, staple now that Cold Wave's gone, and of course we don't have heavy. Book of Moon went down to 1. It's still a really good card. It disrupts synchros and it lets you attack over big creatures. Dark Hole Monster Reborn. This is staple, because big destruction, free monster. Mind Control. It really helps against decks that use defensive monsters, flip effects especially, like Gravekeepers and Plants, where you can take their Gravekeeper, or you can take their Raikou and flip it and activate the effect, or just Synchro Summon with it, so they lose a monster and then you get a Synchro. It also helps against Gladiator Beasts. 1 for 1 and Foolish Burial kind of work together, I guess, because you can 1 for 1 Dandelion and you can Foolish Burial Dandelion. It's both ways of getting, this is a way of getting into the graveyard, this is a way of getting in the graveyard from your hand, but it lets you go for Redragon plays and Formula Synchron plays. Double Solemn Warning. I'm playing a more defensive trap lineup in the deck with Double Solemn Warning and Double Bottomless Trap Hole, who will eventually function similarly because of the priority ruling that possibly could come out, or is coming out. But it just stops monsters and that really need to be stopped, so like, might as well, right? 1 Limit Reverse, that acts like Call of the Haunted, sort of, for most of the deck. It lets you bring back floaters. If your opponent tries to kind of blow up the field or something, you can still get the Dandelion back and get the tokens, or, you know, it's just recursion. Torrential Tribute and Mirror Force. Destroys a lot of cards in the field. You effect failure their Shien, and then they attack in a Mirror Force, or they summon, and you can just go nuts. And finally, Trap Dash Shoot. If you open this with this card, you have an exponentially higher chance of winning the game. You see your opponent's hand, you basically remember it, and you put a monster back. So it's like having a Royal Tribute, but different, obviously. And since with so many searching cards this format, it's actually really kind of good, especially against Samurais and Gravekeepers, like, and Plants. So if they go Stell, or if they go Formula Synchron Draw, and then they go to 4, and then you go Trap Dash Shoot, and you get rid of their card, that's pretty good. Well, that's the deck. It's 42 cards. I hope you enjoyed it, and rate, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned.